Hello, this is Dominic from the Jack and Dom Radio Show, a weekly sports radio program, and although we broadcast on professional hardware, we do record our show mostly on my laptop, and sometimes I don't press record right when we start. Some shows will start right in the middle of a topic. Regardless, this show is a work of love and passion for sports with raw and transparent opinions between the two of us. So I hope you all enjoy. One Marquette. This is the Jack and Dom Radio Show. Jack, how are you doing today?
I am doing good. Happy Monday to you. How are you?
I'm doing good. And just to remind everybody, the opinions said in the show do not represent the opinions of this radio station or the university. And if you so choose, you are able to get the recording of the show on Amazon Music, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We're also now on social media, so if you choose, you can currently find us on Twitter and Facebook. Just look up the Jack and Dom Radio Show. And that being said, good evening, everyone. I think it's I wouldn't say it's a slow week. I guess it's a slow week of sports for me, considering the lackluster number of sports that I follow compared to you, because I was going to do a segment that I think we'll delay. Delay a little bit. I was going to do into the weirdest intramural team names, but I only went up from 2015 to 2016.
We'll do some more recent
ones. I'm going to do some more recent ones, and half of them I don't think are safe to say on air.
Yeah, we got to be
not because not because they are sexual innuendos, but they're like related to sexual innuendos. So I want to be careful. But I'll tell you, some of them are pretty unique. Some of them
we'll save them for another segment, though, for sure.
You have to be careful saying them, because then you'll say something else.
Anyway,
yes.
Rivalry week at Tech this week for the basketball team.
Yes, I will be going to Houghton. But there is the women's game at 5:30, men's game at 7:30 in Houghton for the Tech NMU game. I believe the women's is slightly favored to win. However, the men's team is going to be quite hard. It's going to be a ride.
We got blown out the first time in a frustrating game for sure.
As it turned out, Michigan Tech's men's basketball team is a lot better than originally anticipated.
And we are not
quite
as good as we thought.
They've beaten Ferris. They've beaten Lake Superior State, I think, once.
They
beat a Division I school.
So we got to be really careful, bring our A game. At our best. Looks like the GLIAC regular season is out of reach for both our teams, but securing a high seed in the GLIAC tournament is always something that we strive for, and so winning these kinds of games, especially rivalry games where the hatred is there and the passion is there, is critically important, especially against a good team, to not only get a better seed in the tournament, but increase your what is looking like a low chance of getting a NCAA tournament berth.
That's going to it's possible, but we don't control our own destiny.
We got to make a run in the tournament.
Yes.
So, and the way to do that, by the way, is to in rivalry games and in games against ranked teams get on a run. Hot teams win in March. Not best teams, hot teams win in March.
Yes.
And so NMU could have a chance against Tech, against Grand Valley, against Ferris if you get hot in
Grand
March.
Valley is not very good in men's. Women's, they're number one in the country right now.
So you have a chance on both sides of the ball. Well, not both sides of the ball. Both teams. If you get hot in March, right? Because in March, anything can happen. We've seen teams like Loyola Chicago go to the Final Four. That was great.
Sister Jean.
You've seen Florida Atlantic go to the Final Four, right?
I remember FGCU.
Right, FGCU
Dunk City
was before my time, but that was a great one, right? Underdog teams are the epitome of March Madness, and so if you go into March with some heat, with some tempo, with some momentum, with some good scheming, you can do some damage. So, this team is going to be an underdog in most of their remaining games, if not all, against some of these better teams. Well, like Tech in the tournament, we're probably going to be an underdog.
Yes.
So, overcoming that and getting hot in March is the key to really a successful season, but also making some noise in March. This team has been hungering for a win in the tournament, in the NCAA tournament, and I think getting hot in the GLIAC tournament puts them in a position to at least have the potential to make a run. I don't know if we're going to make a run. Because
it'll be our third year in a row.
Right. So I would really like to see that because the basketball team is the one team around here that I feel like really, truly has consistency, other than the women's soccer team, which is now undergoing a new head coaching search.
Well, we're great until postseason.
Right, but we're questioning if we don't know, right, with the new coaching staff, how successful we're going to be. So the only other major team here that's been consistently successful over the past seasons is the basketball team. And so I think we can all agree that we want to see that continue.
Yeah, and so for the last 2 home games that we had in this last week, women did very good, beat both the Lake Superior State and Ferris State pretty well.
But 2 tough losses for the men.
But 2 tough losses for the men there because Lake Superior is number 15 and Ferris State's number 20 in the country.
2 really good teams.
And it was close. It went down to the wire for Lake Superior State. It went to overtime. However, when it went into overtime, the game kind of just slowly slipped away. And then they just ended up taking that win. Ferris State, however, this was crazy because a team would have like a 10-point lead. Ferris would have a 10-point lead coming out of the half and then lose it, and then would go back and forth. So this game went back and forth against Ferris.
It was really exciting to
and then in dead time, pretty much in the last minute and a half, they just got lucky on some shots, free throws, things like that.
Right, not that.
They pulled off a win on senior day.
It was a little disappointing, but a good fight from our team.
So there was an NBA player.
I saw that
in attendance.
Here.
Yeah.
Does he have any tie to the area, or he was just hanging out to watch some basketball?
I believe he is childhood friends with Gerald, one of the basketball players on the team.
Oh, that's awesome. Always cool to see some NBA talent here, especially an up-and-comer like Podes, one of my favorite players.
I know. I don't know if he did like a 3v3 or 5v5 or 1v1 session with the guys. Was he doing some
stuff with the guys?
I don't know, but that'd be cool if they did. If it happened, I didn't see it.
It's certainly awesome, though, to have NBA talent up here in Marquette. You had Izzo, who's now the winningest college basketball coach in
Big Ten history. Yes.
Which we'll talk about, I think, in a little bit. But also having Podes and other players coming up here is good to see. It's proof and testament to the fact that this program is successful.
So
and it's really fun to see. But speaking of which,
there's something I want to bring up because today, if you know Kobe, he's one of our marketing people, basically like one of the faces of the program. Manzo, Kobe Manzo.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
He does like a podcast, like interview show with athletes, and he interviewed one of our women's basketball players, Josie Weisbrod. Well, who is the cousin of Max Weisbrod, who was a player here that then transferred to Northern Iowa, D1 Northern Iowa. The only reason why I bring this up is apparently we've been saying their last names wrong. It's not Weisbrod, it's Weisbrod. Apparently that's how they say it. We've been saying it wrong.
Good catch,
this whole time. Because I watched this interview and that was one of the questions that was brought up. So I was like, wait, what? I've been saying. So it's Weisbrod. Everyone has to say Weisbrod. I mean, my last name, Natoli, some people say Natalie. I don't know why. Like, Natalie is Natale.
Yeah, I think it's...
Mine's spelled Natoli.
I think it's really important with players on any team to make sure, especially when you're on air, but just in general, too, that you understand how their names are pronounced.
What's the guy's name, the old guy's name that is the announcer? Do you know? I forgot his name, but he pronounces it Weisbrod.
It's really important, though, I think, when you're on the air, and it's also a respect to the players, I think, that you have those pronunciations.
Casey, though, the radio guy, he pronounces it correctly.
Right, but that's my point, is it's respectful to the players and shows commitment when you pronounce their names right, and when you don't know, you ask them right. But
my stepdad's last name, like a lot of people mispronounce it. They just let it happen. It's the people say Muradov. It's Muradov.
That's funny.
And
but
they just let it happen.
Like, women's lacrosse 2-0 beating Walsh and UW Stout with a matchup against Wisconsin lacrosse on the 22nd. Which
women's lacrosse starts
but
very strong.
Here's what's interesting is, for those of you, I think most of you remember, but for those of you that don't, lacrosse is the team that creamed us 2 years ago on homecoming, and then also beat us by a significant margin this past season as well in football. And so...
Oh, yes. Yeah. I was like dial-up noises in my head.
Right,
I was like,
it's kind of, I mean, it's not true revenge, but I think you get a little bit of revenge to beat a team from lacrosse if you beat them.
Wow.
After getting utterly demolished by them.
That was an embarrassment.
Twice. This is not back-to-back seasons. So a chance for redemption to redeem this university against lacrosse coming up on the 22nd. Another thing that's been going on this week, and I think really the biggest thing that's been going on in the sports world this week, is the Four Nations face-off, which we are, I think, a hockey city, but I know Dom doesn't really watch too much international hockey, and if I'm being quite honest...
I found out about what happened after the fact on social media because half of...
Everyone was talking about it.
Everyone that wears a MAGA hat was freaking out, being super insecure about the Canadian fans booing the national anthem. So that's how I found out.
I just want to
about what happened.
No, there were a lot of people, I think, on both sides of political divide, just keep it unpolitical, that were really frustrated by the fact that Canada booed the national anthem. But then the U.S. went out there and crushed them.
Yes.
So
was it 4-1? 3-1? Okay.
But what happened was, so the Four Nations Classic is a thing that I believe happens it happens consistently on
it's like a World Cup, but for hockey.
Kind of, not really, because it's obviously just the Four Nations, and so
it's just four countries.
Yes.
Okay.
So the United States has been in it 22 out of the 23 times.
When was the one time they didn't?
2001, I think it was. But typically it's the U.S. It's really always been, with a little tiny bit of variation, the U.S., Canada, Finland, and Sweden.
Okay.
There is some variation. Typically, the U.S. and Canada are first and second. Actually, they've been first and second every single time that both teams have been in the competition. And then Finland typically gets third. Occasionally, it's Sweden. 2013, U.S. got third. That was the only time we didn't get a top two finish, other than 2001, which we.
And then is something happens when you get a top two finish?
Oh, well, you get a prize. You get medals. I put that in air quotes because it's not really medals, but you get like gold, silver, bronze, like first, second, third place recognition, and we've been it's been going on since 1996. So this is a big thing.
Okay.
And they do it almost every year. We kind of had a break
because of COVID. So it's coming back in full force. But it's been those Four Nations since 2000, except for when the U.S. sat out in 2001. And then the first 4 years of the competition was just U.S., Canada, Finland. So it's really four, I would argue the four, but I'm sure someone will disagree with me. I would say the four biggest, best hockey countries, national teams. And they go at it like a tournament bracket style where they all play each other, and then the top two teams play in a championship game. Speaking of hockey, yesterday I went to, this is not on the show sheet, but yesterday I went to the women's club hockey trivia fundraiser event that they had. I initially went to
While you think about that.
No. It was, what's it called when a place that makes beer, makes alcohol? A brewery, yeah. I went to the wrong brewery. It was an Ordok brewery, not Black Rocks. I went to Black Rocks, and I'm like, where are the hockey players? There's one here. And then I was like, oh, it's Ordok. So yeah, I went there. As it turns out, for their trivia game, fortunately, I was with a team of three other guys that are far more knowledgeable in hockey than I am. I know diddly squat about hockey.
I know a little bit, but I'm glad you had fun. I just want to wrap up the tournament coverage.
Go ahead.
So, game one, you had Canada beat Sweden in overtime. Then the U.S. absolutely demolished Finland 6-1. Finland then beat Sweden in overtime, which eliminated Sweden from contention. Then you had the U.S.-Canada game where you had 3 fights in the first 15 seconds.
Yeah.
After the Canadians booed the album.
Isn't that like a record or something?
I don't know if it's a record, but it's up there. And the U.S. players were asking for a fight. They were telling some of the Canadian guys, they were like, come at me, bro. Like, they wanted to fight.
Yeah.
Because they were not taking the national anthem disrespect. And then they won 3-1, but easily could have won by more. Absolutely dominated the game. And then earlier this afternoon, Canada beat Finland to secure their spot in the championship against the undefeated U.S., and the U.S. will play Sweden, which will not have an impact on the U.S., but could help propel Sweden from last into third.
Okay.
So we shall see that one.
What if Sweden wins? I heard something happens if it's Canada.
If Sweden wins, nothing happens to
Okay.
Canada. Canada has clinched their spot in the final. So Sweden would just secure
a third place spot.
Spot.
All right.
So we will see what happens there. But definitely a lot of, as you sort of mentioned, it kind of got, the tournament really only got coverage because it got politicized because of the anthem booing. I guess to me, like, it's disappointing that
I think it was just after the Trump.
It was because of the tariffs.
That was the final straw.
But I just think, like, it's disappointing that, like, instead of this event getting coverage for what it is, the 4 best hockey teams in the world, like the national teams, going at it in a really, like, cool competition, right?
Has Russia been in this Nations Cup before?
No.
Okay.
Russia's the other really big nation, but they're not involved in the 4 Nations Cup. They are involved most years in the Olympics and stuff like that. But, yeah. So it's really disappointing to me. Like, it's one of the premier hockey competitions in the world, I think. And I would think most hockey fans agree, that instead of us talking about, like, what's actually happening and, like, the great hockey that's happening and all the great players, we're just talking about the fights and the politics and, like, those things.
Yeah.
And, like,
welcome to the real world.
But I think, like, it's happening increasingly more with a lot of sporting events where we focus more on, like, oh, the president's there, so now I'm mad about the sporting
Super Bowl,
event.
right?
Or when Biden was president, the other side was like, oh my God, Biden's there. Like, guys, it's just sports. We all want to watch it together. Like, we all want to have fun. Like, can we
I will mention there was a NASCAR event recently, and the President motorcade did like a did a lap around the track.
And I'm saying, like, why?
I heard something about that.
Why, like, it frustrates me that we can't just enjoy sports for what they are. Like,
I mean,
set politics aside for 4 hours and just watch. We get it.
Yeah,
the Canadians booed the anthem again. We get it. There were a lot of fights. Okay, great, but keep the politics out of the game.
It's hard.
You can talk about the fight. Great. We had a fight. Okay. But enjoy the game for what it is. Enjoy the hockey for what it is. Like, as someone who is not the world's biggest hockey fan, but, like, someone who wants to enjoy the hockey and the sport of it, it gets really annoying when you focus on the political coverage of it. Same with the NASCAR race. My brother, big NASCAR fan. My dad also, and I, to a smaller degree, am.
Did they change? Is it a new gen? Is it? Oh, again, NASCAR. Okay.
But really, like, it frustrates me when they focus on the political aspect of it, political coverage of it, and, oh, this famous person is here. Same with the Super Bowl. It's all about Taylor Swift. You know, Taylor Swift is here. Oh my gosh. Look, it's Sabrina Carpenter. Like, I get it.
I mean,
they're celebrities.
It's Sabrina,
I get it. But I feel like we focus less and less on the actual game and more on who's there, especially on social media, but also in media coverage too. Like when you watch the TV coverage, there's a very heavy emphasis on that rather than the actual game. And I just think, like, sports is supposed to be, at least for me, an escape from reality, an escape from politics.
Yeah,
nice quiet Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I think with what you've told me and, like, what you contribute here at NMU with the ASNMU, and
right? Like, I'm in a lot of things.
Like, you're in a lot of things, you know, and sports, and this even applies to me too. I want to detox a little bit from
sports is supposed to be fun politics, and goofy and, like, competitive and, like, it's not supposed to be.
Sometimes rivals between countries because of war or the Cold War with the Soviet Union, USA.
But that's different because that's like,
or
you go out on the ice,
Celtic Rangers in Scotland.
Right, you go on that's completely wrong, but we're not even going to talk about it.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
If you think Michigan Ohio State is insane,
Celtic Rangers is huge.
Is a magnitude crazy.
But the point being, you have the politics, right? U.S. Soviet Union. You bring up a good example.
Yep.
Obviously, they were enemies and not allies like we are with Canada.
Yeah.
But the point is, you went on the ice and the politics ended, and it was who's the better team.
Yeah.
And yes, you win, you bring glory to your country, then the politics comes back and you start talking about it. Oh my God, we're better than you, yada, yada, yada. But once the puck hit the ice, everybody shut up.
It's just a game, yeah.
Right? You might hit a little bit harder, you might get more aggressive, right?
Yes.
Of course.
That's what rivalries are.
You don't like the other team. But the political angle of it is supposed to stop. When the puck drops, when the ball gets kicked, when the football gets thrown, right? That's where I think it's supposed to end, right? I don't think it's supposed to be about the celebrities in the stands or the presidents that are or are not there or tariffs or whatever the topic is. I am very passionate about, as someone who cares a lot about politics, that has to stay out of sports.
Yeah.
And I don't want to harp on that too much because I think, by harping on it too much, I'm adding to the problem. But I think that's a big thing, right? I was really disappointed by how no one was talking about, oh my God, look at that great goal. It was, oh, look, the Canadians booed us again. Okay.
Yes.
I understand that there's political tension, but keep it out of my hockey, keep it out of my football, keep it out of my basketball, Speaking of basketball, there was
the All-Star NBA game.
Right, there was the very forgettable NBA.
I heard they made some changes in regards to they have skill games now.
Yeah,
or something.
so they had All-Star games, but they were up to 40 and really small teams, so no one really got to play a lot.
Okay.
The games were just boring.
Yeah.
So it just really wasn't a fun watch, and you really didn't get to see all that much of the players. You could tell, and the All-Star games had problems with this before. No one really wanted to play defense. No one really cared about being there. The skill games fell flat. The dunk contest got carried by Mac McClung, and only Mac McClung for the third straight year. Nobody else was impressive.
How was the 3-point contest?
It was lackluster. This is the best talent in the NBA, and you're running into the same problem as the NFL, where your All-Star game is just not marketable anymore.
Yeah.
The difference
even Obama in an interview talking to NBA players brought this up. Because he loves basketball, but he even straight up said the All-Star game, what happened?
Right, and it's the same problem as the NFL, where the competition is just no longer there.
What happened?
They don't have the motivation to really go out there and compete because of risk of injury and just other elements of it. Yeah. And so I think it's a problem too in the NFL. The same idea.
I did hear Luka is fitting in quite well in the Lakers right now.
It's going pretty solid, but just focusing on the All-Star game for a minute, it's
I know
you are supposed to this is supposed to be the pinnacle event of the halfway point of the season,
Yeah.
And it's just falling flat, and the NFL is having the same problem. And so I think the NFL and the NBA need to get their guys together and figure out how can you revamp this game so we actually captivate audiences. You still don't have a risk of injury, but you actually have a competitive game, and it's fun to watch, and things.
What was the score, do you know?
I mean, there were a couple different games, 41-32, 42-35, and 41-25.
Okay.
Shaq's team ended up winning it, but it really wasn't fun to watch.
So it wasn't East-West anymore.
No, which I don't like that change, and it was just so boring to watch, I think, for a lot of people. So there's not really much to harp on there, just that there's clearly some changes that need to be made regarding the formation of the All-Star game, how you pick teams and how it works. It's really gone downhill, much like the NFL game, where it's just, oh, look at this skill challenge no one cares about, right? I didn't watch Pro Bowl. I'm guessing you didn't. Most people really don't tune into the Pro Bowl anymore.
No.
It used to be a marquee event, and now it's really not. But staying on the topic of basketball, I know you and I are both having a really enjoyable basketball season.
Yeah, Michigan State.
Because Michigan and MSU basketball are 1-2 in the Big Ten with a marquee matchup coming up. So it's going to be really exciting on Friday. You may choose to tune in if you would like.
Yeah, Michigan State playing Purdue, and then at Michigan.
Right. So I am certainly excited for that game this Friday. We'll certainly see how that goes.
ESPN gives Michigan a 57% chance of winning.
I think State's going to win, but I
think it'll be close.
Yeah, I do, and I think Michigan and Michigan State are both top 10 teams and should be the number 1 and number 2 in the Big Ten. I don't like that Wisconsin is ahead of both of us. I don't like that at all.
Oh, yeah, in conference play. And overall...
No, they're ahead of us in terms of rankings, not in conference play.
Okay.
I don't like that they're ranked higher than us and not even higher than you. And quite frankly, you could argue they're higher than Purdue, but I think they should be in about the same spot.
Okay. That's fair.
This is a turnaround, though.
You're saying something nice about Michigan State, so of course I'm going to say that's fair.
Well, I have to credit Izzo where credit is due. Yep. Just because I hate MSU doesn't mean I can hate our NMU.
He passes, Bobby Knight.
Right, he passes Bobby Knight for the most wins.
What was the number? Like
Big
300 something?
I believe it was 354. You can fact check me on that.
Yeah.
But point being,
354. You're exactly right.
It's been a really big season for us both in that MSU was kind of middle of the pack last year. I think maybe upper half, like nothing spectacular, like not the MSU basketball that you expect. They ended up finishing. Let's see. They ended up finishing 20-15. It looks like. And we're 7th in the conference. My Wolverines were last in the conference. And now we are first, you are second with a big game coming up. Things are on the up for both of our teams. Izzo has broken the record, and congratulations to him for that. Really big moment for MSU and for NMU to have our alum do something like that, and also big for Michigan to turn around from an 8-win season to an already 20-win season. Both these teams, I think, when they are clicking, are Elite 8 caliber. They've just got to get some turnovers under control and play some more fluid basketball. But as a basketball fan, it's really exciting to see both these teams do well, because even though I don't like Michigan State, I don't like the rivalry is certainly more fun when both teams are good.
Yes, so a lot better than the All-Star of these All-Star games.
Yeah, I would much rather watch Michigan State basketball.
I'm really curious about, speaking of All-Star games, because something I'm trying to set up is the NMU versus Michigan State intramural All-Star game.
Ooh.
I hope it is as energetic as I imagine it to be.
Best of luck figuring that out, and that sounds like certainly something.
It sounds like it's certainly going to unless something really crazy happens on Thursday. It looks like the first game is going to be at Houghton. And then they'll start at Houghton, and then next year it'll be here, and they'll go back and forth.
That honestly sounds really fun, and I'm glad you're setting that up. So hopefully that will go well. But we got a couple
because I'm sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Actually, before I do continue, for anyone who is just joining us, this is the Jack and Dom Radio Show here on WUPX 91.5 FM HD1 Marquette. Nothing is 100% confirmed yet. For hopefully when I do go to Houghton, I do meet up with some of the recreational sports people to hopefully figure out any logistics, any stuff like that. If, however, this does not work out, there is a plan B.
Oh, good. Okay, you'll have to tell me more once we get more details. Don't spoil anything.
No. I can tell you what the plan B is.
Which is?
It's going to be hell for the intramural All-Stars. Because it will probably be the varsity backup players.
But,
and they assure me, we will destroy you.
So it should be
straight
cool.
From Rocky. I will break you. That's what's gonna be.
It should be cool if you're able to set that up.
Yes. All right. What's the next topic? Yeah.
Really didn't pay much attention to this. My brother did quite more than I did. But I'm a little bit of a NASCAR fan because
I have some questions.
Driver was back in this race after being out of NASCAR for several seasons. Jimmy Johnson, I'm a big Jimmy Johnson's guy. I used to watch NASCAR, then he retired, and my interest in NASCAR.
He did Le Mans. He did the 24-hour Le Mans 2 years ago.
Yeah. So when he retired, my interest in NASCAR kind of waned, but now he's back for a couple races, just kind of as a he'll be in a few races, not all of them. And he finished third, which was really exciting because obviously he hasn't been in NASCAR for quite a long time. So exciting. William Byron ends up winning the race. Tyler Reddick second. Chase Briscoe fourth, and John Hunter Nemechek fifth. Lots of high-profile crashes. By the way, another famous driver, Martin Truex Jr., also coming back for kind of we'll call it a cameo appearance. Rain delayed a number of hours, but a really exciting race. I know my brother and my dad were certainly tuned into that. So the Great American Race is this weekend, which is super exciting. So what do you got questions about?
Yes. So I play the video game Gran Turismo.
Oh, gosh.
And there is the Daytona 500 in the game, but there's also like a dozen other American tracks and in Europe and in Asia.
Uh-huh.
And for a lot of the racing categories, it's split up into, I think there's performance points, but there's also the GTE or GT class. So it goes from GT 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then GTB, which is like rally cars.
Okay.
And there are NASCAR stock cars in the game, but they're categorized as GT3 cars.
You're asking way too technical questions.
And I know what I know, like for sure, is there's a new generation of cars.
Yes.
That was just introduced a few years ago, and when they introduced the new these new stock cars, I think they said that what did you find?
It's Gen 7.
Gen 7. Okay, yeah.
So
because I know
started in 2022.
Okay, because I know what Gen 5 and Gen 6 they those look like what a NASCAR stock car like what I'm used to them looking like for those two previous generations.
Yeah, it's
and then they like loosened up on like what the car can look like, so the manufacturer
it's a little bit easier.
Can make the car look like the way that they make their cars. And they're apparently they're in the GT3 category of cars, in this worldwide category of cars. And that's what NASCAR is like in now.
Yeah, they definitely upgraded to Gen 7 in 2022. But I think like one of the big things when it comes to Daytona is it's like one of the biggest races, obviously, of the entire season. Super exciting.
It's 500 miles, right? That's what they call it. The 500. It's not 500 laps, right? It's 200. Is it 200 laps?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
My brother would know a lot more about that. It's a super speedway, so you've got a lot more action, a lot more crashes, a lot more drifting. Like it's an exciting, fun race to watch.
I've done a racing series, and I did 100 laps on the Daytona track.
Right, and you can attest, like, it's really hard in the video game. I can't imagine how hard it is on a real...
Oh, it gives you, the G-forces. Yeah,
right.
You're having
so
G-forces.
It's really impressive to watch them do that and have control of that car. Like, I can't get control of my car at 20 miles an hour across a turn in snow. So, like, going 200 miles an hour, even in clear conditions, is really impressive. Okay, there's, like we've said, it's a pretty... Well, not a pretty. It's a really slow season for sports right now with the break for the Four Nations. For hockey, you've got the Pistons off because of the All-Star game. No baseball right now, no football.
Yeah.
I mean, there's soccer. I can talk a little bit about soccer. So the Champions League had a new format this year, and for those that aren't regular show listeners, I am a big FC Bayern fan. And so the new format, the way it works is it used to be you'd have 8 groups of 4 teams, and top 2 teams in each group would advance to the next round of the Champions League automatically.
Yeah, so it's like sorry.
But so the top 2 used to advance from each group. Then you'd have the round of 16, the round of 8, the round of 4, the round of 2, and then a champion. Now they changed it so there's 36 teams instead of 32. The top 8 automatically advance, and then 9 through 24 play in a series, like a playoff series, basically. And so that's what's going on right now, that playoff series to determine which 8 of those teams go into the Champions League round of 16. and which 8 teams they get demoted to what's called the Europa League.
Yep.
So it's certainly...
I still remember FIFA. I had a copy of FIFA 15 years ago.
It's certainly a new format, and it's been met with varying feelings. I personally like it because I think it allows teams that are normally historically put into groups and stacked against the odds to have a better chance of doing well. And we had Club Brugge 2-1 over Atalanta. My team Bayern beat Celtic 2-1. Benfica beat Monaco 1-0. And Feyenoord beat Milan 1-0. Mm-hmm. So they have a second leg that they'll play. And then obviously the team that scores more total goals will advance to the round of 16. And those other teams will go down to the Europa League. So I'm really hoping Bayern can do well there. You've also got the other 4 matches that happened. You had PSG 3-0 over Brest. Dortmund 3-0 over Sporting, Juve 2-1 over PSV, and then the biggest one, Real Madrid over Man City 3-2. That one is always certainly an exciting one. Obviously, too, I'm not going to mention them on air, but the Europa League and the Europa Conference League are kind of happening at the same time. So you've got several interesting European competitions if you are like me and you're very bored by the lack of American sports right now to watch. You've got options in terms of soccer, or you've got the international hockey tournament that culminates this evening if you choose to watch that. So definitely not a shortage of options for things that you can watch. So yeah, a lot going on in the soccer world, and it's really exciting to. I've been watching a lot more soccer lately than I have in years past.
Go.
It's really interesting though, because soccer, like in terms of just how things go, is like I guess it feels a lot different sometimes than other sports. But right now you've got, like, in the top leagues, you've got Liverpool, Bayern, Barcelona, Napoli, and PSG. So, like, 5 of the biggest teams on top. And you were talking about Celtic Rangers. So Celtic is running away with the Scottish Premiership right now. So
when I had a FIFA 23 or 22, and I had I did a manage a team, like you manage a team, and it was I managed Rangers.
Okay.
I was able to and I put it on a reasonably hard difficulty.
Do you play or do you build the team? Because I only build the team. I very rarely play the games.
I do both.
Because I do, like,
especially for big games.
I do like 15-year-long rebuilds, and so it's a little bit different.
For big games, I play. For the small games, I just let it go through automatically, and I usually win because I have a lot more money than the other Scottish Premier League teams.
Yeah, it's pretty easy if you play with Rangers.
And I would always grab, like, a bunch of, like, older players on their way out for super cheap. And I was able to pull off, not my first year, but the next year I was able to pull off a Champions League.
That's kind of crazy, actually. But I think, like,
it was hard.
Yeah, it is, and I think it's like I'm really surprised by the fact that soccer is
I beat Celtic 7-1.
That's funny. That soccer is not caught on more in the U.S., but certainly the Champions League, a passion for me.
I did hear some news that not the MLS. But the what's the USL, which is right now they have a Division 2 league. They're going to set up a Division 1 league, like a top league, and have promotion relegation.
It's going to be really interesting. I don't know how they're going to compete with the MLS and get into the major markets. I wonder if they're going to try and combine. It'll certainly be interesting to see. It will launch in 2027 to 2028.
Yes.
Certainly would be interesting to see. Promotion relegation in soccer, I think, is a great idea. It really is.
As long as the teams can afford the travel.
Right, but I think they can.
Because unlike in Europe, where the countries are a lot smaller than the United States, I think
they'll be mostly centered on the East Coast. I think it's like, I think promotion and relegation is long overdue in the U.S. soccer system. Because clubs don't really develop players. There's really no there's incentive to do well. I'm not saying they're not.
And there are good MLS players,
but it's a different setup in terms of how the league is run and the incentives to how you run your team and stuff like that
is different. Yeah.
And so I think having a promotion relegation is not only good for U.S. soccer fans, but I think especially for homegrown American players, it allows them more of an opportunity to not only because there's more teams, but also.
Because imagine
to showcase their talents and then to eventually go to teams in Europe or excel in the States or wherever they go. Promotion relegation, which is it's a huge part of the sport in Europe.
Don't we have a semi-pro team in Detroit?
Yeah, and I really hope. I
forgot what they're called.
It's Detroit City, I think, FC. Okay. But I really hope to
imagine them going to the MLS.
Right, I hope that, they would go maybe to the USL, but I really hope that we tap into some markets in the U.S. that really haven't been tapped into yet by the MLS. Detroit is a huge one. You've got Tampa, Pittsburgh, Indy, Louisville.
Denver.
I don't think Denver has one. Yeah, you've got a lot of options. And so I'm really interested to see if they combine with the MLS or coexist. So certainly interesting to see how it will play out. But other than that, I think until we start getting into the NCAA tournament selections and stuff like that, there's just not a lot going on right now.
I know. Crazy. Well, when is the St. Thomas game, hockey games? When are those?
St. Thomas this week.
Those are our last 2 home games, right?
Yes, Friday and Saturday, our last 2 home games for hockey.
I'm going to try to be at one of them.
I will likely be at Fridays, potentially in the press box, shadowing to see if I want to get involved with statistics for the athletic department.
Ooh.
So that'll certainly be exciting. I've never been in the press box before.
Nice.
So I'll have to keep a post on that for next week.
Okay.
But other than that, good luck to our hockey team.
Yeah.
And that's really all I have for this week.
Oh, well, hopefully next week we have a fully fleshed out list of crazy intramural team names. You said are you in one?
I am.
What's your team name?
Not saying it on air.
You can't say it on air.
I probably could, but we'll save it for next week.
We'll save it. Yeah, we'll save it. Yeah, we'll save it for next week. Anyway, I know shorter show for today.
Probably shorter the next couple of weeks, to be honest, until we get back into March and the madness.
I can tell you for esports, if you go up to the second floor in the Northern Center, we now have a banner raised, right? It's just 1.5 feet by 2 feet. So last year in spring of 2024, one of our teams got won national champions in their division for Rocket League.
Okay.
And so I designed a banner that was based off of the older volleyball banners in the Vendiment before they renovated the whole thing. So from that design, from the official design, I made a banner commemorating that. If you're in the second floor Northern Center, at least in the far side, come and take a look.
That is certainly exciting.
And hopefully that gives the esports club a little more legitimacy in the eyes of the people.
Yes, I heard that Davenport won the League of Legends championship.
I've heard something about that. Although I don't understand League of Legends, Dota. I don't understand.
But it's just cool to see the GLEAC official account posting about that stuff.
Yeah, because the GLEAC have something.
Davenport was posted on their official account as the esports tournament champion, which they, I believe, played League of Legends, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. And then in a separate division, Purdue Northwest Esports won the League of Legends title for the second straight year. And then the overall esports champion was
they still have
also a repeat winner in Davenport.
And in one of their videos on their esports page, it's still Photoshop 5 text effects for sports design.
So
it's a filler. It's a filler spot. They still have a.
We'll close with that, but certainly super exciting for esports getting some recognition from the GLEAC. So unless you have anything else, I think that will conclude our show for this evening.
This is the Jack and Dom radio show here on WUPX 91.5 FM HD1 Marquette. We will see you guys next week.
Yeah, there's just